أيا طالب العلم قم لا تنم فإن الزمان انقضى. أيا طالب العلم قم لا تنم فإن الزمان انقضى وانصرم.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. إن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدى هدى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. All praise and thanks belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord, creator and sustainer of the heavens and the earth. We send our choicest greetings and blessings upon the most beloved of Allah's creation, the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, upon his family members, upon his companions, and upon all of those who follow his blessed way of life until the end of times. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us from them. Ameen. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum. I welcome each and every one of you back to the reading of the text, or to the poem for that matter, منظومة المفطرات المعاصرة. منظومة المفطرات المعاصرة, which is the poem, a didactic poem on the topic of modern nullifiers of fasting. Now I know this text should have been completed in Ramadan, but unfortunately we were not able to do that. So bi'ithnillahi al-kareem, inshallah, we'll finish it tonight, inshallah. We'll finish it tonight. So the last class that we had, and I think that was about 2 weeks ago, was on the issue of the use of the various types of injections. And we gave you the 4 opinions that are within the Shafi'i madhab, and we said primarily this text deals with the opinions, the official opinions within the Shafi'i madhab. However, to be fair, there are issues here and there where there's a difference among contemporary Shafi'iyya. So we already discussed the Rasāʻil of injections, and we discussed the Shafi'i position on those issues. And we said that there are 4 views, and the Nadhim, he comes to the conclusion that the strongest view from those 4 views are that the use of injections, whether they be nourishing, nutritious in nature or not, they do not nullify the fast. They do not nullify the fast. And this includes intramuscular injections, which is injections into the muscle, intradermal, which is into the skin, so injections into the skin, so that includes your shots that people are taking and stuff like that. That doesn't break the fast. You said insulin injections doesn't break the fast, and then obviously intravenous injections as well. So I wanted to expand a bit on this issue of the injections and what the scholars discuss pertaining to these things. So we'll first discuss the intramuscular injection. The intramuscular injection, the scholars say, is when medication is injected into the skin and then goes towards the muscle. And then the muscle absorbs it. And this then pushes the medication into the various blood veins. Now, we discussed in the previous lessons, we said, so these are contemporary issues, obviously. And so when the contemporary scholars discuss a contemporary issue, what they do is they look at Masā'il in the classical fiqh, and they see how they can join between this current day mas'ala and the classical issues mentioned in the classical turath. So if there's a clear ayah or hadith on it, then they'll make qiyas upon that, or they'll refer it back to that. If there's nothing clearly mentioned in the Quran and the hadith, they'll look in the classical fiqh tradition and do something which is called at-takyif wa takhrij al-fiqhi. At-takyif wa takhrij al-fiqhi. So takyif means giving it a surah. What does this look like in the classical fiqh? And then takhrij, giving the ruling then for that particular contemporary mas'ala. So the scholars, when they discuss the issue of intramuscular injections, they say this can be looked at from the classical mas'ala of mas'alatul mudawat fi lahmi saqi aw al-fakhidh. the mas'ala of medicating and inserting medication into the flesh of the shin or the thigh. So this is what classically what the fuqaha spoke about. So they will say this is very similar to this. And so the Shafi'iyya and the Hanbal and the Hanabila, they state that when medication is inserted into the fakhid, into the thigh, or into the saq, into the shin, then this does not nullify the fast. This does not nullify the fast. So this is what the Shafi'iyya and the Hanabila said. So we mentioned obviously the Shafi'iyya state that intramuscular injections do not break the fast. And now I'm mentioning to you the classical mas'ala and how contemporary Shafi'is come to the conclusion that intramuscular injections do not break the fast. And they say that intramuscular injections do not break the fast for the following reasons. They say, number one, أنها دواء يضخ إلى الجسم عن طريق العضل. They say this is a medication that is inserted into the body by way of the muscle, and this is not considered food or drinks, nor is it in the meaning of food and drinks. The purpose of this injection is not to offer the body nutrition. And so based on that reasoning, they say Allah Azza wa Jalla has prohibited eating and drinking in the Quran. Consuming food and consuming drinks, this has been prohibited by the Sharia. So this does not fit that description, thus it will not be a nullifier of fast. They also say الدواء الواصل عن طريق الحقن العضلية وإن وصل إلى الأوردة الدموية إلا أنه لا يغني الصائم. They say even if it reaches the veins and the various parts of the body, it does not nourish the body. It does not nourish the body. ولا يقوم بالتسويد الجسم بمواد يستطيع من خلالها القيام. And it doesn't reach the blood veins. It doesn't obviate the need for food and drinks. And nor does it supply the body with substances that generate energy and gives energy to the body. They say أن الدواء يدخل من منفذ الجلد. They also say that the injection, when it is given, it is done through the skin. الذي هو منفذ غير معتاد. And this is a manfad that is not one of those manafidh, those natural openings that the madhab speaks about. ولا يصل إلى المعدة. Nor does it reach the abdominal area or the place where food and drinks reach. ولا إلى ما اعتبره الفقهاء جوفا. Nor does it reach to that place that the scholars consider a jawf. So for those reasons, the classical fuqaha said that medicating someone in their thigh and in their shin does not nullify the fast for those reasons. So contemporary scholars, they look at that reasoning and they say the intramuscular injection is something similar to that. And so for this reason, many, if not most, of the contemporary fuqaha have stated that intramuscular injections do not break the fast. Such as Shaykh Muhammad Bakhit al-Muti'i, the previous one of the many muftis of Egypt, Shaykh Mahmoud Shaltut, also from Egypt, Shaykh Ibn Baz, the mufti of Saudi Arabia, Ibn Uthaymin, Shaykh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, and many others. They have stated that intramuscular, so injections into the muscle, does not nullify the fast. And the scholars say, many scholars say this is actually ijma amongst the contemporary scholars. And this is the view of the Majma' al-Fiqh al-Islami with regards to the resolutions with what breaks fast and what doesn't break the fast. They say this is not one of the things that break the fast. The next mas'ala is the mas'ala of injections into the skin. So there are various types of injections. the subcutaneous, the intradermal, the intralesional. They say none of these injections nullify the fast. And that's where we find the various the shots that people take. These things do not break your fast. So when we look at this from the classical perspective, the early fuqaha did not speak about something such as this. However, they say that the previous mas'ala that we have discussed, the medicating into someone's thigh or shin, is somewhat similar to this because it also enters through the skin. And we mentioned the classical mas'ala that the Shafi'i and the Hanabila state that anything that enters through the flesh of the shin, medication that enters through the flesh of the shin and the thigh, does not nullify the fast. And we mentioned the reasons: it's not considered food, it doesn't provide the body with nourishment, it doesn't enter through a manfadh maftuh. They say all of those reasonings apply to the injection that is taken through the skin. Hukn al-jildiyah. So insulin injections do not break the fast based on this. Tat'imat, the various shots that people take, they do not break the fast. Whether the injections are for the purpose of when you get injected like with Botox and these type of things, where they insert something into the skin, you know, when they fillers and which women use. I'm not speaking about whether that is permissible or not. I'm not speaking about that. I'm speaking about, does it nullify the fast? These scholars say it does not nullify the fast. It does not nullify the fast. Whether they are things that just enter the body, such as insulin and various shots that people take, or whether it stays there, such as fillers and Botox treatments, these things do not nullify the fast for the reasons that I've mentioned earlier. And this is the view of the Majma' al-Fiqh al-Islami. The Majma' al-Fiqh al-Islami. Okay. And we mentioned the contemporary scholars as well on that issue. And then the last type of injection is the intravenous injection, which is the injection where nutritious fluids, it's either nutritious fluids that are injected into the body to replenish the body's nutritional needs, or therapeutic drugs or diagnostic aids into the body. These things are injected into the body. Does this break the fast or not? We said, the scholars of the past, there's nothing similar to this in the classical fiqh. There's nothing similar to this in the classical fiqh. So the scholars say, if we don't find something similar, let's find something with some resemblance to this issue. And they look at a mas'ala called ما يخترق الجلد ويصل العضل, that which pierces the skin and reaches the muscle, such as in the case of intramuscular injections. So based on this taqyif, because there's no similar to the issue of intravenous injections, the scholars have differed on this issue. And because there's a difference, the scholars differ also because this is providing nutrition to the body. Some of them obviously providing nutrition to the body, and some of them not providing nutrition to the body. So based on this, some of the scholars have said, whether they are nutritious or not, the intravenous injections, they both break the fast. Some of them have said, when they are nutritious, they break the fast. Nutritious does not break the fast. Some of them said, nutritious or not, both don't break the fast. And that is the position of the Shafi'i school, as we mentioned. And obviously, there are 4 opinions in the Shafi'i school on this matter. So if you find an opinion that says something different, then the scholar has probably adopted a different view on this issue. So let's discuss the two most famous opinions. And that is, we know the Shafi position. The preponderant view according to the poem is that whether the intravenous injections are nutritious or not, whether they are nutritious or therapeutic, they both do not break the fast. Some scholars have said if they are nutritious, they break the fast, and if they are not nutritious, they do not break the fast. And this is the view of the Majma' al-Fiqh al-Islami. This is also the standard position in Saudi Arabia, among the senior scholars of Saudi Arabia. This was also the opinion of the famous Shafi'i scholar, Hanafi scholar. He was an expert in both madhabs, Shaykh Wahab al-Zuhaili, and many other scholars. And their arguments are that nutritious injections is in the meaning of eating and drinking. They are in the meaning of eating and drinking. And so the body takes benefit. And when the body takes these injections in and drips and all of those things, it obviates the need for food and drinks. It obviates the need for food and drinks. It replenishes the body. It restores certain things into the body that the body needed. And so for this reason, they say if it's nutritious in nature, it will break the fast. If it's non-nutritious in nature, it doesn't break the fast. They also say obviously non-nutritious injections do not break the fast because, as we discussed earlier on, medication that is inserted into the thigh or into the shin do not break the fast, so they say qiyasan upon that. But in the case of nutritious injections, it offers the body nutrition and thus it breaks the fast. Another opinion says that whether they are therapeutic or nutritious or non-nutritious, intravenous injections do not break the fast. And we said that's the view of the Nadhim. The Nadhim, the poet, in the poem, we've discussed that meaning. And this was the view of many scholars, the most famous one being among them Shaykh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, Shaykh Sayyid Sabiq, the author of Fiqh al-Sunnah, Shaykh Muhammad Bakhit al-Muti'i was a Hanafi, one of the Egyptian muftis, the state muftis. And they say, why don't these injections, intravenous injections, why don't they break your fast? They say, because it enters a place ما لا يدخل عن طريق منفذ معتاد لا يعد مفطرا ولو استفاد من الجسم. It doesn't enter into a natural opening. So even if the body benefits from it, whether it goes into the veins, whether it goes into the muscle, they say ما لا يدخل عن طريق منفذ معتاد. It doesn't enter through a natural opening. That's number one. And number two, the second thing is they argue it doesn't reach the jawf. Another argument, they say this is very similar to that which enters the body through the pores of the skin. And we mentioned this mas'ala. We said if someone applies creams, these creams are sometimes absorbed by the pores and you can taste it in your throat. So they say similar. This is an injection, it's the same thing. Even if you inject and you feel the taste somehow, then it does not nullify your fast. Another argument that they make is, they say the asl is that your fast is valid until we have conclusive proof that your fast is invalid. And the fact that we are doubting whether the fast is broken or not, and that's why the scholars are differing, means that your fast is valid. Because the asl is صحة الصوم حتى يثبت ما يفسده بدليل شرعي, until we have evidence to suggest otherwise. They also say that nutritious injections do not take away hunger and thirst. And the one who has received a nutritious injection there's still the possibility that that person might feel hunger and thirst. It's not like when you take this injection, alhamdulillah, I'm satisfied, I'm full. No, it's not like you've eaten a meal. Also, they say it doesn't enter the abdominal area. It doesn't pass the digestive system. So the mere fact that the body benefits from it doesn't mean it should be a nullifier fasting. It's like someone taking a cold shower whilst fasting and feeling the relief in his throat. You know, you feel that cool sensation. That means your body has benefited from the shower. It doesn't now mean the shower nullifies your fast. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. So now let's go to, so that was some of the discussions that we had in the past, inshallah ta'ala. Now the author, rahimahullah ta'ala, says, he goes to the issue of the use of anesthesia whilst fasting. We are reading from over here, وَالْحُكْمُ. Over this over here. The author says, or the Nadhim says, وَالْحُكْمُ فِي التَّخْدِيرِ مِثْلُ الْإِبَرِ وَزِدْ عَلَيْهِ بَعْدَ تَفْصِيلٍ دُورِي فَإِن يَكُ التَّخْدِيرُ مَوْضِعِيًّا لا ضرر إن يكن أو إن يكن كليا واستغرق النهار كلا أبطلا ولم يفق لو لحظة وذا انجلا في حكم الإغماء لدى من صام ليس كمن جن ولا من نام. So the author, or the Nadhim rahimahullah wa hafidhahu, he now speaks about the issue of the use of anesthesia whilst fasting. He says, let me do the translation, وَالْحُكْمُ, the ruling, فِي التَّخْدِيرِ, with regards to anesthesia, مثل الإبر, like using a needle and by injection, وَزِدْ عَلَيْهِ بعض التفاصيل دُرِي. He says, the ruling with regards to takhdir, anesthesia, when it is done by injection, is mithlul ibar. It is like the previous scenario. Remember, we spoke about injections now. He said the same difference of opinion in the Shafi madhab, those four opinions that exist in the Shafi madhab, will be applicable to this over here. When the anesthesia is applied by means of injection. وَزِدْ عَلَيْهِ بَعْدَ تَفَاصِيلٍ دُورِي. And he said, add some details to that. I'm just going to translate it. وَزِدْ عَلَيْهِ بَعْدَ تَفَاصِيلٍ دُورِي. Duri means to know. فَإِن يَكُ التَّخْدِيرُ مَوْضِعِيًّا. Now he speaks about the different types of anesthesia. He says, if the anesthesia is مَوْضِعِيًّا. So you get different types of anesthesia. You get anesthesia called local, regional, and general. Local is a very small part. Maybe injecting into your finger, or you are doing an extraction into the gum. This is local. Then you get something called regional anesthesia. This is a bigger part of the body, such as a female, the epidural that they inject into her to relieve her of pain, right? And then you get a general anesthesia, and that's when the person is totally out, unconscious. So he says, فَإِن يَكُ التَّخْدِيرُ. If the anesthesia is مَوْضِعِيًّا, it is in a specific place, it's local, it's a local anesthesia, لَا ضَرَرٌ, then there's no harm, meaning the fast is not broken. أو إن يكن كليا, and if it is a anesthesia that is kulli, that is general, meaning you were unconscious, you went for an operation and you were totally unconscious, then he gives you some details. وَاسْتَغْرَقَ النَّهَارَ كُلًّا, and you were unconscious, and that unconscious state lasted for the nahar, for the entire day, meaning from before Fajr until after Maghrib you are unconscious. Abtila, then consider such a fast to be nullified. وَلَمْ يُفِقْ لَوْ لَحْظَةً وَذَنْجَلَهُ. And the person did not wake up even for a moment. Even for a moment. So that means if the person was in a state of unconsciousness from before Fajr until after Maghrib, that entire day, he will have to make qada of that. His fast will be nullified. However, if he woke up 5 minutes before Maghrib, or if he woke up after 5 hours, then the fast will be valid. That's why he says, وَلَمْ يُفِقْ, and he did not wake up, وَلَوْ لَحْظَةٍ, even if this be a moment, وَذَنْ جَلَى, and this is clear. في حكم الإغماء, you will be in the ruling of someone who was مغمى عليه, someone who was unconscious. And so the scholars of fiqh speak about someone who has been unconscious whilst fasting. They didn't speak about someone who was under anesthesia. لدى من صام, you will be in the ruling of the one who was في حكم الإغماء, the one who was in a state of unconsciousness, لدى من صام, whilst fasting. ليس كمن جن ولا من نام. We will make qiyas of someone who was under anesthesia and totally out. We will make qiyas upon someone who was mughma alayh, someone who was unconscious. We won't make qiyas of him kaman junna. We won't consider him like someone who went through a state of junoon whilst fasting, nor someone who slept. What if someone slept? So someone made the night before, they made the niyyah to fast, and from that time they slept until Maghrib the next day. That person's fast is valid. So we don't make qiyas of that scenario where the person is on anesthesia and unconscious upon the sleeping person, because that person's fast is valid. Also, we don't make qiyas of this person on someone who's majnoon, because the person who's majnoon, if he started the day fasting and he goes in a state of junoon, his fast will be invalid. We make qiyas of his scenario to the person who is tahta al-ighma, who is in a state of unconsciousness. Is everybody still with me, inshallah?
نعم.
So let us quickly do it again. والحكم في التخدير مثل الإبر وزد عليه بعض تفصيل دري. The ruling with regards to anesthesia in relation to when the person is injected, وزد عليه بعض تفصيل دري, and add to it some detail, duri, it is known. So we are speaking about anesthesia through injection. Anesthesia through injection. فَإِن يَكُ التَّخْدِيرُ مَوْضِعِيًّا, if the taqdeer, the anesthesia was local anesthesia, لا ضرر أو إن يكن كلية, there is no harm to the fast. Why is there no harm to the fast? Because we said intravenous, injection through the skin, intramuscular, all those injections. The preponderant view in the Shafi'i school is that it doesn't break the fast. So similarly, if you are injected because of a tooth extraction, or they are doing some stitches and they're injecting you, whatever, it's local, it's a small space, it's a small area, la darad, then the fast is not broken. So like in that case, those injections do not break your fast. This injection will not break your fast. أو إن يكن كلية, but if it's a general anesthesia, what does that mean? It means you were totally out. Then we have to see. واستغرق النهار كلا أبطيلا. If it took up the entire day, you were in that state for the entire fasting day, from the time of Fajr until the time of Maghrib, for that entire fasting day, أبطيلا, then declare such a person's fast to be valid. وَلَمْ يُفِقْ لَوْ لَحْظَةً وَذَنْجَلَهُ, and the person did not yufiq, he did not wake up, but he gained consciousness even for a moment, and this is clear. وَذَنْجَلَهُ في حكم الإغماء, this person will be in the ruling of someone who was unconscious, لدى من صام, and fasted. ليس كمن جن ولا من نام. You will not be analogous to the one who experienced a period of insanity, ولا من نام, nor will he be compared to someone who has slept the entire day of fasting. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. So let's discuss that quickly, inshallah ta'ala. So the scholars say, the author mentions the two types of anesthesia. So there's anesthesia by injection. There's anesthesia by injection. And anesthesia by injection can either be general, meaning it can knock you out completely, totally you're unconscious, or it can be regional, meaning a big part of your body is made numb, or it could be local, such as a tooth extraction. And then the author mentions another type of anesthesia, and that is through the use of a gas. Or this is what we can infer from what the author is speaking about. So the first type of anesthesia is by injection, and the second one is through gas, when it's taken in through the nose. When it is taken in through the nose, it's inhaled. It's inhaled. And this is only in the case of general anesthesia. This is only in the case of general anesthesia, where you are knocked out completely. So we can look at anesthesia can either be administered through injections, or it can be administered through inhalation, through gases and vapors and stuff like that, etc., etc. So the author, the Nadhim, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions the issue of anesthesia. And he mentioned that it can either be through the needle. And he says this mas'ala is based on the ikhtilaf that was mentioned before. The ikhtilaf of the different types of injections, this goes back to that. And he then says, the opinion that we accept is that this type of local anesthesia through injection will not break the fast. It will not break the fast. But if it is an anesthesia that is general, you were injected and you were out, then if it takes up the entire day, the entire fasting day, then the fast will also be nullified. The fast will be nullified. So in the case of local anesthesia, the fast is fine. In the case of general anesthesia, if you were out for the entire fasting day, then your fast is nullified. And if the person woke up in between 5 hours later, 5 minutes before Maghrib, then the fast will be valid. The fast will be valid. And this is qiyasan on the mas'ala of, the scholars of the past discussed the mas'ala of ighma. So if you were in a state of ighma for the entire fasting day, they will say your fast is nullified. If you were in a state of ighma and you regain consciousness, maybe 5 hours before Maghrib, 5 minutes before Maghrib, they will say your fast is valid. And there's a difference of opinion among the Ashab al-Shuruh, such as Al-Ramli and Ibn Hajar al-Haytami, regarding the mas'ala of, what if you caused yourself to be unconscious? What if you cause yourself to be unconscious? Does that impact the validity of fast or not? I'm not going into that, inshallah ta'ala. So that's the issue of injections. If it's local anesthesia, your fast is valid. If it is general anesthesia, then we have to look. If it was for the entire fasting day, fast is invalid. If it was for a portion of the day and you woke up before the time of Maghrib, then even if you were unconscious, regain consciousness and went unconscious again, if only for a moment, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute you were awake, then your fast is valid. As for anesthesia by way of inhalation through gases, then the Shafi madhab says we have to look. If it is an athar, an effect, it's a non-tangible thing that you are inhaling, then it doesn't affect the fast. However, if it is, there are some physical things in there, such as some type of medication in there, then it will nullify the fast if it reaches the jawf. Many doctors say that the gases that are inhaled, they reach the dimagh, the brain, and the ma'ida, the abdominal area, and this places the person in a state of unconsciousness. And obviously we have to see if he's unconscious for the entire day, from Fajr until Maghrib, the fast is invalid. If he's unconscious and he regains consciousness even for a moment, then the fast will be valid. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. So in summary, let's quickly go through it in summary, inshallah. Local anesthesia doesn't break the fast. General anesthesia, we have to look. If it is, okay, let's rephrase it. Local anesthesia through injection doesn't nullify the fast. General anesthesia through injection only nullifies the fast if the person was unconscious for the entire fasting day. Then we go to the next mas'ala. As for general anesthesia through inhaling gas, then if there's nothing, if it's just a gas that you're inhaling, the fast is not nullified. However, if there's something included that is an ayn and it reaches the jawf, then it nullifies the fast. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. The scholars of the past, when they spoke about, so we already know the mas'ala of injection, so we're not going to go into that because we made takyif and takhrij on that in the previous mas'ala. As for gas anesthesia, which is used in general anesthesia means when you are totally unconscious, when you are totally out, they say the classical fuqaha spoke about this in two ways. They looked at it in two ways. They can either compare it to the issue of being unconscious. Either they can compare it to being unconscious, or they can compare it to inhaling air. To inhaling air. So either we can consider, if we look at this mas'ala, inhaling gas, does it break the fast or not? The classical fuqaha, when they didn't discuss this exact mas'ala, but they discussed things that are similar. Either inhaling air, what's the ruling of inhaling air? Doesn't break your fast, yes or no? Or because you will be in a state of unconsciousness, the fuqaha of the past spoke about this as well. If we compare it to inhaling air, القول في غاز التخدير هو القول في غاز الأكسجين، وذلك أن المواد التي تعطي غازات مجردة لا تحتوي على أي مواد جامدة أو سائلة، ففي هذه الحالة حكمه حكم استنشاق الهواء، وهذا ما قرره مجمع الفقه الإسلامي، وهي من المسائل البديهية المقررة لولا إشكالية حفظ الغاز بصورة سائلة، وهذا الإشكال ينفك ببيان أن الأكسجين يعود لحالة الغازية بمجرد مفارقته للأسطوانة، وهذا ما تطمئن إليه نفس okay. They say like inhaling air, it contains nothing else, solid or liquid. So because of this, anyone who compares the inhaling of gas to this, they will say, based on that, it doesn't break the fast. It doesn't break the fast. وهذا وحكم إعطاء غاز التخدير مجردا. They say this is if you give this anesthesia, the gas of anesthesia, if you give it free from anything. أما إذا صاحبه إعطاء مواد مغذية. But if there's something added to it that's of a nourishing nature, then in that case it could potentially be a nullifier of fasting. The second takyif that they give it is the takyif of unconsciousness, and that is what the author mentions in the text. He says في حكم الإغماء لدى من صام ليس كمن جن ولا من نام. So the scholars say وهذه المسألة تتكيف على مسألة الإغماء التي تحدث عنها الفقهاء. The scholars spoke about this in the past. لكون التخدير الكلي مطابق لها بزوال العقل والإدراك, because this is very similar to being unconscious. Your entire state of mind is removed. So you can compare it to two things. You can compare it to the inhaling of air, and thus in that case it doesn't break the fast. Or you can compare it to the state of unconsciousness. This is the takyif that they give it. And we already explained to you that if the person is for a full day in the state of unconsciousness or in the state of anesthesia, full fasting day, then the fast is nullified. However, if he regained consciousness even for a moment of the day, then his fast is valid. So based upon the second takyif, the fact that we compare takhdir to the state of ighma and consciousness, the fuqaha have differed. Majority of the scholars, Malikiyya, the Shafi'i, and the Hanabila state that the fast will be invalid when the state of anesthesia started before Fajr and it continued after Maghrib. So for that entire fasting day, you were not conscious for a moment of that day. For that entire fasting day, you were not conscious for a moment of the day. So the Hanbalis, the Malikis, and the Shafis will all say your fast is not valid. And what is the evidence? They have not a scriptural evidence, but they have a rational evidence. They say that imsak, restraining yourself from food and drinks, is one of the pillars of fasting. And this has not been achieved. So one of the main pillars of fasting has not been achieved. You could say he made the niyyah the night before. But before Fajr, he went into a state of, he went into and he was under anesthesia. So that component of fasting was not achieved. The second opinion is, and this is the view of the Hanafi school, they say that if the person is in this state, his fast will be valid. And their argument is, inna niyyah qad sahhat, his niyyah was valid. وذهاب الإدراك بعد لا يمنع صحة الصوم. The fact that he lost his state of mind after that does not impact the fast negatively, does not nullify the fast. لوجود الإمساك المقترن بالنية, because he was still in a state of imsak. Even though perhaps not out of choice, he was still in a state of imsak, and that is coupled with a niyyah, and that's why his fast should be valid. And the asl is, the Hanafi say, the asl is وجودها منه من الليل حملا لحال المسلم على الصلاة. And this was the case before Fajr. He was like this. And we are supposed to interpret the action of the believer into a favorable one. And so we assume his fast to be valid. Also, they make qiyas upon ighma, upon being in the state of unconsciousness. And they say, ighma, unconsciousness, is comparable to sleeping. They say, what if someone slept before Fajr and they only woke up after Maghrib? They say that person's fast is valid. So similarly, if someone is unconscious like that, that person's fast will be valid. And then thirdly, by extension, if someone is under anesthesia from before Fajr till after Maghrib, then that person's fast should also be valid. And so based upon this, if someone is under anesthesia for the entire fasting day, according to the majority of the scholars, the fast will be nullified. According to the Hanafis, the fast will be valid. That's if the person was if the person was in the state of unconsciousness or under anesthesia for the entire day. What if it was only for a portion of the day? If he was only unconscious for a portion of the day, then the majority of the scholars, that is the Hanafis now, the Shafis and the Hanbali, state that if someone was unconscious and for a moment in the day that he gained consciousness, no matter how small that amount was, then the person's fast is valid. Does everyone understand what I'm still speaking about?
Yes.
Okay. So the first scenario was if he was unconscious for the entire day, then the majority is on one side and the Hanafis on the other side. This isn't the case if he gained consciousness for a portion of the day, a minute, 2 minutes, he was conscious. Before Maghrib, he gained consciousness. The Hanafi, Shafis, and the Hanbali state that person's fast is valid. Okay, so the Fuqaha basically state, we said the Hanafis, if someone is unconscious and by extension under anesthesia for a portion of the day, for most of the day, and then for a portion of the day he regained consciousness, then his fast will be valid. And the Fuqaha in the Shafi'i school, in the Hanafi school, and the Hanbali school have said the following. You can say it, the proper noun way of saying it is Sarkhasi, but many scholars say Sarakhsi. Imam Sarakhsi said, رجل أغمي عليه في شهر رمضان حين غربت الشمس فلم يفق إلا بعد الغد فليس عليه قضاء ليوم الأول. Okay. The Shafi'iyya state, قال النووي رحمه الله تعالى والأظهر أن الإغماء لا يضر إذا أفاق لحظة من نهار. Nawawi rahimahullah says that if a person wakes up and he gains consciousness for a portion of the day, then his fast is still valid. The Hanbalis say المسألة قولين أحدهم متى أفاق في بعض النهار صح صومه والثاني لا يصح صومه حتى يكون مفيقا في أول نهار. قال ابن قدامة متى أفاق المغمى عليه في جزء من النهار. Ibn Qudamah says if a person regains consciousness for a portion of the day صح صومه, his fast is valid سواء كان في أولها أو في آخره. The second opinion is that of the Maliki scholars, the Maliki madhab, the Maliki ulama state, if the person is unconscious for more than half of the day, his fast is invalid. However, if he's unconscious for less than half of the day, then his fast is valid. The view of the majority of the scholars, that's the Hanafis, the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is, what's the reason? They say because there was imsak was present. There was imsak, which is one of the two pillars of fasting, which is niyyah and imsak. And so he was up for 5 minutes of the day. It's okay. He regained, within that fasting day, he was 5 minutes before Maghrib, he regained consciousness. Or 5 minutes after Maghrib, he woke up from the anesthesia. Then in that case, his fast is valid. Why? Because not only did he have the niyyah, maybe made the niyyah the night before, but also he experienced imsak, voluntary and willful abstinence from food. And so based on that issue of ighma, the scholars will discuss the issue of anesthesia. If it was for the entire day, majority is on one side and the Hanafis on the other side. If it's for a portion of the day, majority is on the one side and the Maliks on the other side, if the person was unconscious for more than half of the day. Okay, now we go to the last part of the text, inshallah, and we are finishing with this tonight. The author goes to the last part of the text of the Mandhūmah, مَا فِي الْإِفْطَارِ بِهِ تَفْصِيل. So just in conclusion, inshallah, the first mas'ala was مَا يُفَطِّرْ بِلَا خِلَافٍ وَلَا تَفْصِيل, that which unreservedly breaks your fast, without difference of opinion in the madhab and without any detail. Just one opinion, it breaks the fast. The second chapter was مَا لَا يُفَطِّرْ وَهُوَ ثَلَاثُ أَقْسَامٍ, that which does not break the fast, and there are three categories. The third chapter was مَا فِي الْإِفْطَارِ بِهِ خِلَافٍ, that which breaks the fast, but there's difference of opinion within the Shafi madhab on that issue. And the last one is مَا فِي الْإِفْطَارِ بِهِ تَفْصِيل, that which breaks the fast, but there is some detail to the mas'ala. In this scenario, it breaks the fast. In that scenario, it doesn't break the fast. And so the author says, لَيْسَ كَمَنْ جُنَّ وَلَا مَنْ نَامَ. When we make qiyas of the one who's using anesthesia, we make qiyas upon the mughma alayh, not on the one who is majnoon, who goes through a state of junoon, because that person's fast we'll consider invalid, nor to the one sleeping for the entire fasting day, because that person's fast is still valid. Because that person still has a somewhat control. If someone wakes him up, he'll be able to wake up. Now the author says, مَا فِي الْإِفْطَارِ بِهِ تَفْصِيل, that which breaks the fast, but there is some tafsil and detail in the mas'ala. The author, the Nadhim rahimahullah ta'ala says, وَعَلَقٌ إِن بُلِعَ الرِّيقُ الَّذِي تَحَلَّلَتْ أَجْزَاؤُهُ الْفِطْرُ أُحْتُذِي. وَعَلَقٌ إِن بُلِعَ الرِّيقُ الَّذِي تَحَلَّلَتْ أَجْزَاؤُهُ الْفِطْرُ أُحْتُذِي كحبة تحت اللسان توضع كشمة والقات حيث يوضع ثم السباحة بها الفطر حصل إن سار للجوف ولو سهوا فعل ومثل ذا معجون الأسنان متى دخول شيء منه لديه ثبت لأنه عن غير مأذون وقع فأدم القصد لفطر ما منع تم الكلام بالصلاة والسلام عليه والآل وصحبه الكرام. The author speaks about, he says, those things that break the fast, but there is some detail required. He says, وَعَلَكٌ. Alak is something that people chew on. So you get people, they're on the habit of chewing things, right? You get people, they chew like rubbers, and they'll take the back part of a pen and they'll chew on it. So alak here means, with a kaf, not with a qaf, means that which is chewed. And so there's also this, I think they call it, I don't know the English term, but like the bark of the tree that they used to take off and they used to chew on it, just for the sake of chewing. There's no juices that come out of it. Obviously, this excludes bubblegum and stuff like that. Bubblegum breaks your fast. And bubblegum will be haram to chew during the month of Ramadan, and it will break your fast. Because The juice that comes out of that mixes with your saliva and you're going to swallow it, which is an ayn. It goes down into through a manfadh maftuh to the jawf, which then nullifies the fast. So he says, وَعَلَكٌ, and this alak, this chewable thing, in buli الرِّيقُ الَّذِي, if the saliva is swallowed, in buli الرِّيقُ الَّذِي, if the saliva is swallowed, الَّذِي تَحَلَّلَتْ أَجْزَاؤُهُ, and pieces of it dissolved with your saliva, تَحَلَّلَتْ أَجْزَاؤُهُ, then there will be what? Al-fitru, then the fast will be broken. Meaning, if that doesn't happen, the fast doesn't break. But if some of that does mix with your saliva and you swallow it, your fast is broken. And that's why you will see there's tafsil in the mas'ala. In scenario A, it breaks the fast. In scenario B, it doesn't break the fast. So Shaykh Muhammad Hassan Hitu, rahimahullah ta'ala, who recently passed away, he says, أما الألك, as for alak, فإن كان يتحلل منه شيء, if something breaks off from it, from that alak, that thing that you're chewing, يختلط مع الريق, and it mixes with your saliva, ويبتلعه الصائم, and the fasting person then swallows it, كما هو معروف العلك الحال المعاصر. He says, if anything of it, you chew it and it goes down with your saliva, then your fast is nullified. Remember, the Shafi madhab doesn't look whether it's nutritious or not. It's going to nullify your fast. It's an ayn that enters through a manfadh maftuh to the jawf. He says, وَأَمَّا إِن كَانَ لَا يَتَحَلَّلْ مِنْهُ شَيْء أَبَدًا, but if nothing breaks from it and dissolves with your saliva, كَقِطْعَةِ الرَّخْوِ الْمُطَاطِ, such as chewing on a piece of elastic, فَإِنَّ هَذَا يُقْرَأْ وَلَا يَحْرُمْ, then this is makruh, yes, but it doesn't break the fast. That's the first mas'ala. The second mas'ala, he says, كَحَبَّةٍ تَحْتَ اللِّسَانِ تُوضَعُ. Now the author, he speaks about those tablets that people who suffer from heart diseases place under the tongue, which we call sublingual tablets. Sublingual tablets. So these tablets are tablets that are absorbed into the bloodstream through the pores in the mouth. So he says, if a part of this tablet breaks off, mixes with your saliva, and you swallow it, your fast will be nullified. However, if everything, you place it under your tongue, this is what people with heart diseases use, right? To prevent heart diseases and so forth and so on. If they place it under their tongue and it's completely absorbed and it's gone, and the person knows it's gone, then this will not break the fast. Because the mouth is considered fi hukm al-zahir. If I put something on my arm, it doesn't break my fast. Similarly, if I just keep something in my mouth, it doesn't break my fast. That's why it's allowed to taste food, because keeping something in your mouth is not a nullifier fasting. If it goes through the throat and eventually, if it reaches the throat, then it nullifies the fast. So here he speaks about kahabbatin, such as tablets, tahta lisan, that are under the tongue, tuda'u, that are placed under the tongue. He says this will break the fast. When does it break the fast? If it goes down, if a portion of it breaks down and mixes with your saliva and goes down your throat, goes down into your throat, then it will break your fast. However, if this is not the case, then it doesn't break your fast. وأما الحبة التي توضع تحت اللسان واستعمل مرضى القلب لأن تمنع حدوث الذبحات الصدرية عافانا الله والتي يقول الأطباء إن توضع تحت it is placed under the tongue لأن تلك المنطقة, because that place يسري من الامتصاص, it quickly absorbs the tablet, فهي تدخل إلى الجسم, it enters into the body من مسامات في تلك المنطقة through the pores found in the mouth, لا عن طريق الفم, doesn't go through the mouth into the throat, لكن قد يتحلل منها شيء, but sometimes something will break off from it, ويسري ماء الريق, and then goes with the saliva إلى الجوف, to the جوف, عبر البلعوم, وبناء على كلام أقول إن امتصاص هذه الحبة من منطقة تحت اللسان دون. Okay, so we gave that, we have to explain that. أما تحت الجوف فإن تفصل لأن الريق. And this is the view of the Majma al-Fiqh al-Islami. Okay. The next, he then says, كَشَمَّةٍ وَالْقَاتِ حَيْثُ يُوضَعُ. And he also says, like shamma. Now, shamma is very common in the author. The Nadhim is from Yemen, right? So he gives examples from Yemen. Shamma is natural tobacco, or it's like powdered tobacco that the Yemenis chew on. Powdered tobacco. It includes tobacco leaves and lime, calcium oxide, black pepper, and sometimes oil and other flavorings. And they will make it into a little, almost like a dip or a quid. And they will then place it under the lower lip and the gum, and they will chew on it, right? It's very much like pan that is eaten in the Indian subcontinent, but you get different types of pan. You get harmful pan and you just get sweetened pan. So this is what they put in their mouth and they chew on it. And the purpose of chewing on this is it serves as a stimulant. You don't swallow it, you don't eat it, you just chew on it, right? And he says, well, cut. And there's something called cut. Cut is like a green plant that they also chew, and they make like a big ball in their mouth and they chew on it. And it also serves as a stimulant, keeps them awake, takes away appetite. It's harmful, it harms the body. You can see how people's teeth look. It affects their throat. Many say it leads to a mouth and throat cancer as well. So it is something which is harmful. But from a breaking the fast perspective, the ruling is if it doesn't go down, doesn't mix with the saliva, which is obviously very difficult, then it doesn't break the fast. However, if it does mix with the saliva and something goes down, then it does break the fast. Shaykh Muhammad bin Ahmad al-Ahdal, in his commentary Ifadatu Sadat al-Umad, which is a commentary on the famous Mandhūmah al Zubad on Shafi'i fiqh, he says, والقاتل معروف باليمن فإن صار متفتتا بحيث يصير إلى الحلق فإنه يفطر به كما يفطر بالنشوك المسمى بالبردقان الذي يوضع في الفم لأن أجزاؤه تسري في الريق حتى يصل إلى الحلق ثم إلى الباطن. So the Yemeni scholars, the scholar says that it will be a nullify fasting if it goes down. Then he says ثم السباحة بها الفطر حصل. Then swimming بها الفطر حصل. Fitr, breaking the fast, حصل بها, will be obtained through that, will happen through that. إنصار الجوف, if some water goes to the jawf. So obviously if you're swimming and you're keeping your head above water, then it's fine. But if something goes into the mouth perhaps, then that will break the fast. إنصار الجوف ولو سهوا فعل. Even if he was under the assumption that no water will go on and some water went in the fasting, the fast will be broken. So if water reaches through the jawf, goes into the jawf without intention, you're just swimming, you didn't intend water to go in, then the fast will be broken. And that's why the ulama of the Shafi madhab states, Imam al-Ramli rahimahullah ta'ala says in his Nihayat al-Muhtaj, he says, ولو عرف من أهدته أنه يصل الماء منه إلى جوفه أو دماغه بالانغماس ولا يمكن التحرز عنه أنه يحرم الانغماس ويفطر قطعا. If he knows through his interaction with water and through his experience that water will reach through the jawf, through submerging yourself in water, and he knows he won't be able to avoid this, then submerging yourself in water will be haram and definitely your fast will be broken. So does swimming break your fast in and of itself? No. There's tafsil in the mas'ala. If water does not enter into the jawf through a manfadh maftuh, if it does not happen, then your fast is valid. If however it does, it enters through a manfadh maftuh into the jawf, then it does break the fast. ومثل ذا معجون الأسنان متى دخول شيء منه لديه ثبت. And he says similar to that is, مثل ذا, similar to هذا, to this is معجون الأسنان, toothpaste. Toothpaste, when does it break your fast? متى, when دخول شيء منه, when something from it enters لديه ثبت, and this is established. So if the toothpaste mixes with your saliva, then your fast will be broken. لا يفطر الصائم إن لم يدخل شيء منه أو ابتلع الريق الذي اختلط به. Toothpaste in and of itself, toothpaste, if something of the toothpaste goes down, the toothpaste goes down, then the fast is broken. Or if you swallow saliva that used to be mixed with toothpaste. Swallowing saliva that is mixed with toothpaste and swallowing toothpaste will break the fast. These two things. The Abdullah bin Mahfud al-Haddad said, لا يضر. Brushing your teeth with toothpaste will not affect your fast. ذلك مع المحافظة. That is when you are conscious of the fact ألا يدخل شيء من نفس المعجون. Nothing of the toothpaste should enter, should go down. ولا الريق المختلط به. No any saliva that used to be mixed with the toothpaste. ولا يضر بقاء نكهة. The flavor of toothpaste in your mouth, that doesn't affect your fast. لأنها أثر, because it is a trace. لا عين. It is not something which is a tangible body. It is not something which is a tangible body. Okay. And then the author, rahimahullah ta'ala, says, لأنه عن غير مأذون وقع. He says, why would these things, if they do go down, if you swim and water goes down into your throat, or if you chewed something and something mixed with your saliva it went down your throat, or if you brush your teeth and the toothpaste went down, or the saliva mixed with the toothpaste went down, why would it break your fast? لأنه عن غير مأذون وقع. Because it is something that has happened, وقع, it has happened, غير مأذون, and it was not something that the Sharia allowed you to do. When I say allowed to do, I don't mean the Sharia has considered it haram, no. I mean the Sharia doesn't state do it and then you did it and water went down. Like the example of the Sharia tells you to clean your mouth when you take wudu. Thus, when a little bit of water seeps through, the Sharia will overlook that. The Sharia didn't tell you brush your teeth, and so if a little bit of water goes down, your fast should be okay. No. فَعَدْمُ الْقَصْدِ لِفِطْرٍ. So you not having the intention for your fast to break, ما منع, doesn't prevent the fast from being broken. Doesn't prevent the fast from being broken. So when it comes to the toothpaste mas'ala, as long as nothing of the toothpaste enters or saliva mixed with toothpaste, then your fast is not broken. The flavor, you know, that flavor that you taste, the toothpaste flavor, that is not a nullifier of fasting. وَمَا يَتَخَلَّلْ بَيْنَ الْأَسْنَانِ. And that which is between your teeth and you swallow it, that will break your fast. Shaykh Muhammad Hassaniyatu said, ما يبقى في خلل الأسنان من الطعام فإنه يجب عليه يتحراه ويخرجه فإن ابتلعه عمدا أفطر عند الشافعية بلا خلاف. Whatever you have between your teeth, you need to remove it. If he swallows it intentionally, then the fast will be broken according to the Shafi scholars without difference of opinion. And then when it comes to the issue of the use of the toothpaste, the scholars said that we can make takyif of that to two classical issues. Either putting something into your mouth and it doesn't reach the throat. So does brushing your teeth in Ramadan break your fast? In and of itself, no. Unless something goes down, it breaks your fast. So the scholars say the issue of toothpaste can be compared to the classical ruling of entering something into your mouth without it reaching your throat, so just keeping it in your mouth. Or it can be analogized to the issue of using siwak in the month of Ramadan. And so in both cases, your fast won't be broken. Because the mouth, just keeping something in the mouth, is not a nullifier fasting, because the mouth is fi hukmi dhahir. It's considered an outer part of the body with regards to fasting. And that's the end of the poem, inshallah. The author then says, Tamma al-kalamu. The discussion has ended bis-salati was-salam. Through salat and salam upon the Nabi sallallahu alayhi, upon him. Upon who? Upon Rasulullah sallallahu. So generally, if you use the dhamir, it should go back to the closest possible name. But Rasulullah hasn't been mentioned in a long time. The last time we said Rasulullah was at the beginning of the poem. So the scholars say from a grammatical standpoint, this is allowed. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He says, Inna anzalnahu. We have revealed it. What is the who referring to? The Quran. But before that, the Quran is not mentioned. Before that, the Quran is not mentioned. So similarly over here, تم الكلام بالصلاة والسلام عليه. The discussion is ended by salat and salam upon him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, wal al, and the al of Rasulullah sallam, wa sahbihi, his companions, al kiram, his noble companions. Barakallah feekum wa jazakum Allah khairan. That is a wrap, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, in 7 lessons, in about 7 hours, we've completed the study of this blessed Mandhūmah.
مولانا.
بارك الله فيكم وجزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.